about 3 weeks ago, we talked about a 3,200 unit collection of buildings in Houston, Texas, that was sold at a discount via foreclosure, where the equity was wiped out and then the bank took a haircut. Just recently read an article on Real Deal about a building in Turtle Bay, New York, that last traded at 125 million, that just went through foreclosure because of an $81 million loan maturity. It sold for or transacted at $13 million. We're talking huge discounts are possible. So what I wanted to do was step back, talk to someone who is in this market and ask, can the average person get on these lists or auctions, or how could we get a little piece of this? And if we can't, can we look for the same kind of pain in smaller transactions? So Jonathan, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Michael. And this is a kind of a fun topic to talk about. Because everybody loves a bargain, right? I mean, if you're a real estate investor, you got to love a bargain, right? I love a bargain. You love a bargain. We talk about this all the time. So the idea of getting like big bargains on stuff, and actually I'm, just in contract now in a hotel deal where we're getting a great bargain on this deal, which I'll talk about, I think, later on in a different section today. Section today, but segment is the word I was looking for. But yeah, I mean, so can you get bargains? Well, so the answer to this question is it depends, right? So, and what it depends on is, are you on the list or not? Are you one of the insiders or not? Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And so there's kind of like a good news and bad news thing here, which is that, pretty much anybody can get onto the insider list if they know how to do it. The bad news is that, like, if you haven't done it already, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity because, these things are only being, only the insiders are learning about these things, and the rest of us are finding it out on the Real Deal. And, when it
after it's all done,
after it's all done. But, let's be frank, like, the kinds of insider lists we can get onto are going to depend on our track record, our network, what we're capable of doing. Like, I'm sure that I could, for like the one you just discussed, I'm 100% positive that I could have networked my way onto the list for that asset, but that doesn't mean I would have been able to close it or would have been able to make use of that, or that they would have taken me seriously necessarily. But just given who I know, I could probably have, like, given enough time. And obviously, let me put it this way, like, not necessarily knowing about that specific deal or with the objective getting that deal, but getting onto a list like that, that is entirely possible given enough time and using your network, right? So you won't know any, by the time you hear about a specific deal, it's too late. But to get on the list, to hear about the deals in the first place, anybody can do it. But here's the thing, you got to start doing this now. Everybody, like Michael, you said before we got on the air, maybe you can't or won't or don't want to get on the list for this, 20 unit property or whatever, 95 unit property in Manhattan and Turtle Bay, because that's not your thing, or, you can't come up with that kind of money. But you can get on this list wherever you are, right? And whatever stuff you're dealing with now. So whether you're routinely buying 100 unit properties, whether you're buying 10 unit properties, whether you're buying single families, there is a lender out there, most likely more than one lender out there in your market, maybe somebody you've already dealt with. That's the obvious place to start. If you have even just a banking relationship, like, let's say you're not even in the business yet, but you're in business, right? And you are a business person and you have a business banker, right? You can start talking to that person about, hey, who handles the real estate for your bank? Introduce me to them. That's kind of how the conversation starts. You start with whoever you know at the bank, and you say to them, look, I would really like to meet whoever it is that controls the real estate that the bank takes over. I'd like to build a relationship with them because I might like to buy some foreclosures, right? So just start the conversation that way, and you can network yourself into that position. The critical thing is that if you wait until the kind of deluge starts it'll be too late, especially if you don't really have much of a track record to lean on, and you have to lean on the relationship itself, right? If you have now, you don't need a track record to do this. You don't need a track record to build a relationship, but it may take you a little bit longer. It may take a little more effort of just kind of like getting to be friends with that person so that they're willing to give you a shot at this stuff when it comes up. But you can do it sort of whatever market you're in, whatever kind of stuff you're buying, whatever kind of stuff you're interested in buying, you should absolutely be taking steps.
This is kind of how I see this. And again, I share this with you because I want you to correct me if my understanding's wrong, because this is not where I play frequently. But basically, there's a bank or a lender who probably has a list of troubled assets on that they're following, tracking. And at some point, they're like, we've had enough, right? We're going to take this back. What generally happens, unless it's a smaller asset, is they probably reach out to brokers. In residential, it's called broker price opinion. I don't know what it's called in commercial. They're basically trying to get probably opinions on values. And then what happens, obviously, I think, is that broker goes to this list that you're referring to of trusted buyers, and they kind of shop the deal, if you will.
Well, the broker may have their own list too, right? So you may actually have two cracks at this, because I think the lender may, because the lender may just know people who buy this stuff. And the lender may just be looking at this in terms of, we just want to get our money back out of this, right?
Yeah,
or as
that's
much
the thing we talked about at your event, right? The banks are starving for cash. They're going to,
so they may not, they may just be happy if they get their loan back and not try to be, like making money additionally on that, like foreclosing and then making a profit. But if they do go to brokers, I mean, obviously you want to be on the broker list, and you need to start, networking with brokers as well. And I think, one way, so the question is, well, how do I know which brokers are going to handle this? There are some places you can go. Now, for single family homes, you can actually get on something like Trulia or Zillow and actually just search for foreclosures, and you can see the brokers who pop up, right? Just go contact those people and say, hey, just form a relationship with them, right?
Yep.
You can also go on something called Realty Track. I don't know if you're familiar with Realty Track. This is a subscription-based service, but it's not that expensive. It's like $47 a month. You can subscribe for 1 month. I think they probably have a free trial period as well. And the thing that's great about Realty Track is that it actually tells you who like the receivers are and who the law firms are that are dealing with these things.
Oh, wow.
So you can just reach out to those people and start building relationships there, because you'll see, like, say, for instance, I had been looking at New York for a while, a few years ago, and it was the same names that kept on coming up over and over and over again, because the banks, there's a limited number of banks. The banks have like 1 or 2 law firms that they deal with for this kind of stuff. Interestingly enough, what I noticed was that the New York foreclosure listings were often handled by a law firm in Rochester, New York, right? Now, this makes sense because the legal fees are a lot less. This is very routine legal work. They don't want to spend New York City legal prices on this, so they just have some firm upstate that just does this as a matter of routine. But this is why it's great to have something like Realty Track, because you may just assume, like, hey, the law firms that are going to be dealing with this stuff in New York City are in New York City. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And you may find that whatever state you're in, you may be in Los Angeles, but the firm that they hire to do this stuff is in Fresno, right? Because it's cheaper, or whatever. So, but those are some good sources just to start this question out. And then also, if you develop relationships with brokers anyway, you can just ask them, like, who is it at your firm who tends to get these foreclosures? Or if they're not at your firm, like, which broker in your network is the guy who tends to get this kind of work from the banks? Can you introduce me to him? And they usually will, because the brokers will give each other referral fees, right? So it's really all about networking now. And the earlier you start that, the better. Yes. Exactly. Networking early. Before, it's always the same thing. You got to dig the well before you need the water, right? So if this is something that interests you, and if you believe that there is going to be a lot of opportunity coming, then now is the time to start kind of getting these ducks in a row.
Exactly. Yeah, I think again, when I look at this situation that's coming, and we'll talk about this in video 3 today or segment 3 today. I think that the opportunity is bigger and longer. But yeah, you got to dig the well before you need the water. I love that analogy. I really do see this as kind of there's going to be problems in Class A stuff. That's going to go to a list of 20 people, right? There's 20 people that are well known that have deep pockets, and they're going to get those. Then there's kind of the A minus B plus stuff that may go on a list, and then there's problems. But really, what it is for one rental at a time fans, and for Olivia and I specifically, right? We're looking to buy our biggest building, which will probably be 50 units or less. That's going to be handled probably at a regional bank level, and we've started to rebuild those relationships. Go look for others. But yeah, this is networking early, often. Don't give up. You can never network enough. Tell them your buy box, your history. So it is possible, is what I think
So
we're letting people see.
what are you doing, Michael? Well, I mean, I'd love to know sort
So
of how
yeah,
you're doing it.
so I have banking relationships. So I have commercial loans that we initiated back in the last crash with commercial banks. So that's where we started rebuilding those, because people change in a decade. We've gone and visited them. One of them, the other one's scheduled for next week. Now I'm looking for the other commercial banks. I'm asking them for referrals because they know each other. I know the top agents that do commercial. I have a relationship with them already. So I'm kind of hitting it for both sides, agents and regional banks.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm planning, I mean, as a result of my first hotel deal, we've started building relationships with banks in upstate New York. And that's where I'm planning to start. So
Yeah.
just going and talking to those folks and saying, hey,
Yeah. Now you have proof, right? You have evidence. This is what we did, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It becomes a much easier conversation. So yeah, folks, you got to do the legwork now. I know there are a lot of people, they left comments when I talked about this 90% discount. Is like, how can I get some of that? Well, it takes work, folks. Do you see the hat? Do the work. Go network. Go network. Jonathan, where can people find you?
Yeah, well, please come and join me at Apartment Investors Club on Facebook. It's a community of several thousand people who, we just come in, ask questions. People are happy to help you. I'm happy to help you. It's a good way to kind of get in touch with me. And you can also go to apartmentinvestorsclub.com and get my free download, which I haven't showed you for a while, but I have it over here somewhere. Yeah, there you go. So you can get this for free, the ultimate checklist to how to buy your first 100-unit property with other people's money. This is actually something, even if you're not looking to buy a 100-unit property, this will help you buy anything, right? So
yeah, I highly recommend it. I printed it out. I'm a paper guy. I think 9 months ago when you first kind of put it out there for folks, and it helped me. So people should go get it.
Yeah, it's a good resource. It's just a good jumping off point for buying apartments in general, even if you're not doing syndication, just to knowing, sort of what all the steps are for getting the deal done. That is on the website at apartmentinvestorsclub.com. And the other way is, if you want to invest with me, you can Google Two Bridges Asset Management. There is an investor tab there. Fill it out. And if you're qualified, they'd be on the list.
Thank you, buddy.
Absolutely.